Now, as you know, Karl Rove's attorney, as I said a moment ago, has denied that he spoke to anyone in the Justice Department about it. This may come as news to you, though, Governor, because we just got a response from his attorney tonight. I know that you've called on Rove to testify in front of Congress about this case, under oath, as has Dana Jill Simpson.
Yes.
We asked this question to his attorney. Will Karl Rove agree to testify if Congress issues a subpoena to him as part of an investigation into the Siegelman case? The answer we got, sure. Although it seems to me that the question is somewhat offensive, it assumes he has something to hide, even though Governor Siegelman's uncorroborated assertions aside, there's literally no credible evidence whatsoever to substantiate his charges. Putting that aside for a moment, he's saying sure. I mean, Karl Rove wouldn't testify in the U.S. attorney scandal. His attorney sure sounds like he's saying he's ready to testify if subpoenaed in connection with your case.
Well, then let's don't waste any time. I think the House and Senate Judiciary Committees should subpoena Karl Rove and bring him before those committees. Let him put his hand on the Bible and either tell the truth or lie under oath or plead the fifth. Any of those scenarios would be fine with me. But
are you surprised that Rove's attorney is saying he'll testify?
I'll be surprised if he does. I'm not surprised that he would say that without getting a subpoena, but you know, we also need to call before this committee those people who were in Alabama with those political connections to Karl Rove. Those people who were violating the law and subverting our Constitution for political reasons ought to be brought before Congress, and they too should be asked to swear under oath their relationships with Karl Rove and whether or not he influenced their decision to move forward with this case.
All right, now,
and I think that ought to be done. That ought to be done before Karl Rove is called to testify.
Well, Governor, let me, as you know, the U.S. attorney who prosecuted the case, Louis Franklin, has issued many statements saying that there was no political motivation here. He wasn't influenced by anyone. He said, Mr. Franklin, this is a statement from his office, Mr. Franklin consulted with career prosecutors in the public integrity section of Maine Justice, but he alone maintained the decision-making authority to say yay or nay as to whether or not the U.S. Attorney's Office would proceed with the prosecution. He has said again that Karl Rove had no influence on him, that he never spoke to Karl Rove, etc.
Well, I agree with that because, you know, this is a guy that would have had no connections with Karl Rove.
He says he's a Democrat.
But also, you know, what he's saying is also, we know, is not true because he did not make the decisions. We know that the decisions were made in Washington. When the U.S. Attorney's Office was not moving forward with this case, when they told my attorneys that they didn't think there was a substantial case there, it wasn't going to go forward, they were then called to Washington to meet with Noel Hillman, the chief of the Public Integrity Section, who told them to go back to Alabama and start over again. And you know, he was not in a position. So, and Karl Rove's statement that he did not influence anybody at the Department of Justice or in the White House leaves out many of the players that we're talking about he had a relationship with, specifically Bill Canary and his wife, Laura Canary, here in Alabama.
All right. So we've been talking so far about what may have motivated the prosecution. As you know, your critics would say, and anyone looking at the record would say, wait a second, though. You were convicted by a jury of 7 counts. 25 of them the jury said no. 7 of them the jury convicted you of. This is a jury of 12 ordinary folks who looked at the evidence with regard to bribery, conspiracy, mail fraud, and said Governor Siegelman is guilty.
Yeah, well, and we're talking about a political contribution to the education lottery. And not one single penny of that money went into my pocket. And what we said in our appeal to the 11th Circuit was that the judge gave the wrong jury instruction, and what was said on 60 Minutes was that the prosecutors offered false testimony, knowingly offered false testimony that resulted in my conviction.
And so, do you believe that the only reason that you were convicted was because and again, the allegation, I think, was that a witness was coached again and again to get the story straight. And you're convinced that that's the only reason?
He was coached over 70 times. And also, no, not the only reason, but because of his testimony and because of a jury instruction which was in error, I believe that that was what resulted in my conviction.
All right.
You know, if every Dan, listen, if every governor or president was held to this standard, every single one of them and their contributors who accepted an appointment would be in prison. It doesn't make any sense.
Governor Siegelman, stay with us. We're going to take a break.